It's round 6 of the FIA World Rally Championship. Welcome to Sardinia. Well, yes, indeed, folks. This is Sardinia. It's round 6 of the FIA World Rally Championship. And, well, we've come to, David, possibly the most iconic spot on Rally Sardinia.
It has to be, doesn't it? Mickey's Jump, Monte Lerno stage. This is where you learn to fly.
It really is. And do you know what I've discovered today for the first time? Been coming to this place for 20 years. What is the altitude exactly at this spot?
Right at this spot, it is 999 metres.
Absolutely. 1 metre short of a kilometre above sea level. But David, listen, you'll have noticed we've got our coats on.
Yeah.
David's got his scarf on. There's a lot to talk about ahead of this event. There always is in Sardinia. But let's talk first, shall we, about the weather. Because as you can see, clouds all around us here. It is a little bit chilly. It's been an interesting recce and an interesting few days in the lead up to the event.
The pilot said it, didn't he, on the way in? You know, there's this stretch of water between mainland Italy and Sardinia, and the cloud just builds and builds, and that's exactly... Where's mainland Italy?
Across that way.
Is it that way?
Yeah.
You sure?
100%.
So over there, you can see there's lots of cloud building. And that's what, because it is so mountainous here, the clouds will just hit the top of the mountains and do their thing. And sporadically throughout today, we're Thursday, it's rained, and it's rained heavily, but then equally, it probably has rained here in the last hour, but it's dried completely because it's windy, and the ambient up here is maybe 14, 15 degrees. Down lower, it's 22, 23 degrees. Yeah. So it is, and in the sun, it's drying quickly.
It is quite unusual. Remember, we were here 12 months ago, it was 40 plus degrees. We're still expecting, as David said, temperatures round about the mid-20s. But what's really interesting are these heavy showers, and when they're going to come, maybe a little bit of luck. It's changed the way perhaps one or two drivers might feel their chances might go this weekend, David. Maybe Colin at the front of the field might be saying, "Oh, this might give me a chance."
Undoubtedly, the rain will help to bind the surface together. But just looking at it here, Colin, how much is this going to clean? It's
still a bit,
not a lot, though, is it? Yeah. There's not a thick layer of loose on the top. Bits of it will not clean. There's sections through. We're going to talk a lot about the first stage on Friday morning. It's a stage we've driven through. We've driven through it twice. It's that difficult. It's that tricky. There's places in there that won't clean. That almost you'd say that he should be quickest through there.
Oh, there's a big call. Well, let's talk a little bit about the stages before we go on and talk about the drivers then. What have we got ahead of us? Kicks off on Thursday evening with that little downtown stage, a really cracking wee stage that in Albia. We saw that for the first time last year. We then go into Friday. Friday is the bulk of the rally, including the 50Ks, the very nearly 50Ks of Monte Lerno. A lot of people talking about that stage.
To celebrate what? 19th,
we're
20th.
not quite sure. 19th year, 20th running, 20th year. We're not quite sure what it is. We're celebrating something this year, though. But yeah, 50Ks of Monte Lerno, it's going to be a challenge. No question about that. But, the drivers have identified one stage, David. As you mentioned a moment or two ago, it was so interesting. We've been through it twice. It is the very first stage on Friday, the opening stage of the rally. 10 Ks of some of the most demanding stages that we'll see anywhere.
And actually, just getting to it was tricky enough. So many uphill hairpins. Our little Peugeot, what are we calling it?
3008.
3008. Not allowed to say 007 though. 3008.
No.
It struggled in places, but then when you get up there, off the start line, we went the first kilometre and through hairpin left, hairpin right, and then quick.
Some sections were quick, absolutely.
A kilometre in, we were like, what's all the fuss about? Yeah. And then it just goes absolutely bananas.
Well, I tell you what, David Coulthard, F1 winner, he said very recently in a little piece with Colin Pera, well, do you know what? These rally drivers have got skills that make F1 drivers look like amateurs. Well, this stage shows us exactly what he means by that. Well, take a look at this. We're 2Ks into the opening stage on Friday morning. They're coming down the hill, big speed over the top there. It's a fast left-hander. You pick your braking point for this tight right, almost hairpin right. As you're coming down the hill, it's loose. It's really loose. A lot of rain earlier on in the week. There's damage to the surface. Just look at all of this loose stuff. You're coming into the corner. You don't want to overshoot this one. Enormous jeopardy on the other side of the hairpin. But you've got the speed right. You've got the approach right. You're on the handbrake. You're coming round the corner. And look at these rocks here. Look at this. It's really hard. Look at that. Wow. Big, big rock. Oh, we'll move that one to the side there. This stage, we're all watching the 50 kilometres of Monte Lerno, but this one, the opener on Friday, whoa, watch out. Well, this is a great example of the jeopardy that lies in the stages here. 20 metres beyond the apex from that hairpin. What's happening? Well, they're accelerating towards this fast left-hander. As you accelerate, you're putting the power down. You're digging away at the surface. This could be an iceberg underneath here. It could be this big. Listen. The important thing, it's absolutely no coincidence that Ogier and Loeb have won this 6 times each, because this is the kind of rock they will note for the second pass. But the question is, has everyone noted it? Well, look at this. We're still in stage 2. We've come down off the hill, though. We're on the high plateau. Look how tight. Look how narrow it is. Look how bumpy it is. Do you know what? There's also still a lot of standing water in this part of the stage. More storms to come, potentially. The surface has changed. Kalirov and Pera will be pleased with this. Look how dark it is. That is the remnants from the thunderstorms we've had over the last couple of days. Well, it might only be 10 kilometres, but if you make it through the 10 kilometres to this stop line, my goodness, you have done extremely well. It's a shorty, but it's interesting. This one is the stage that proves why rally drivers are the very best in the world. Do you know what? I think for me, there is no question. First stage in the loop is the stage of the day on Friday. Monte Lerno will be interesting, but they all know this stage. The first one is going to be interesting, David. There's a little bit of everything in there.
There is, as we said earlier, there is some quick stuff, there's some technical stuff, super narrow places. Over that crest, downhill into that hairpin right. It's so bumpy under braking. There's so much potential for stuff to go wrong. There's rocks going to be uncovered. There is more going on in there than I think I've ever seen in 10 kilometres. And just when you think you've done it all, you fly over a jump and land in the middle of a ford.
It's just incredible. Do you know what? When they wrecked it, it was torrential, the weather in there, the rain in that stage. Some of it's dried off, some of it's still there. We could get easily more weather before the cars get there. There are spectators. We know what spectators do. There's a couple of little streams running across the stage.
I don't think you're going to get spectators in there. Those places are right in the middle.
Tricky it is for spectators.
But equally, there's a lot of motocross bikes here. They come in on their bikes. Yeah. But sometimes, Cole, we have been prone to a touch of hyperbole. I don't think we are this time. Mm-hmm. So, as a driver going in there,
prone to hyperbole?
just a wee bit.
Occasionally, maybe.
But as a driver coming in, you can go one way or the other. You can absolutely pin it, and you could take a minute.
Yes.
No, you couldn't take a minute in 10K. You could take a chunk of time, but it's a massive risk in every level. Firstly, first stage of the loop, you're going to be carrying 2 spares. You could risk a puncture, then a compromise. You can't then have a puncture. You've got a 50k stage potentially with no spare.
And there's a lot of potential for puncture there, isn't there?
Yeah,
with the bedrock, with the little rocks at the side.
And a lot of the places where you're setting the car up into the hairpin, there's stuff that will just easily just take the tyre off the rim. So what do you do as a driver? All of them will have really cautious notes. First run through, take it steady. As much as you could take a huge chunk of time out, you could end your rally there.
You really could. Don't forget Teemu Sunninen. I think it was the opening stage on the Saturday a couple of years ago, that downhill through the clock farms. That's the one. He took a massive amount of time. As David said, we wrecked that stage that year. And thought,
through the quarry.
Through the trees. Thought, you've got to be careful here. Yeah. Sunninen had very ballsy pace notes.
Yeah.
And what was he quickest by?
A lot.
It was double figures, wasn't it? So it is possible. But watch out for the opening stage on Friday morning. It's a long day Friday, 140 kilometres. Saturday, 131 kilometres. Sunday, 46 kilometres. A little bit disappointing, the length on Sunday, but we'll wait and see what happens then. So, David, let's talk then about the drivers. Let's talk about where we think things might go this weekend. For me, it is Toyotas this rally. I know it's been Hyundais in the past, but I think you've got Robin Perra at the front.
Aye, they've got their bases covered.
They've got their bases covered. You've
100%.
got 3 on the road. Is Ogier won it 6 times? You've got Elvin a little bit further back. They're well covered if your conditions do suit one position over the other.
The bases covered, you know, at every aspect. If it pours with rain, it's Calais event all day Friday. You can build an advantage. And just to explain, I know we talk a lot about the rain and what it will do to the surface. It just binds it together. You know, instead of just skating along on the top and just sliding through, it pulls the stones together essentially, and it just gives the time more to bite into, and it softens the surface that wee bit more so that you can dig in. And running, you know, you've got the chance to run a softer tyre. Tyre-wise, it is going to be incredibly difficult.
Let's talk about that in just 1 second, David, because that's a really good point. I think that's weather tyre management could be the key this weekend, couldn't it?
Totally, it could, because if it rains, you really need the soft. If it's sunny, you probably still need the soft in the morning if you're running first on the road, because you could be in a lot of loose. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But for sure, Toyota, bases covered. For me, we talked about this before. I think we talked about it in the podcast. Elvin, discount him. Just take your time, do your thing, totally rebuild. Top 6 place, put some points on the board, put Portugal behind you, just get on with it. But 100% Ogier. This is the one, when he retired from full-time driving, he identified events like Sardinia that he wanted to come, and he wanted to show, when you've got a good place on the road, what can be done. Because he's won this rally from first on the road in the most difficult conditions. He wants to show what he can do from the right place on the road.
Absolutely. You know, this in the past has been one of those rallies that's been enormously punishing. I remember Hannanen led once. Remember in the old Hyundai? Not the old Hyundai, but the 2015 Hyundai, 2014 and 15 Hyundai. Hannanen led after a couple of stages, 3 stages here. It is very punishing, but what Ogier showed when he was at his absolute prime was it really didn't matter what challenges lay in front of him. He just addressed those challenges and he mullered it every time. I think Ogier has to be favourite. Now, you don't win this rally 6 times with luck on your side. You win this rally 6 times because you're thoroughly prepared. And the biggest part of preparation for this, for me, is the pace notes. And it's the information and the detail. It's the pace notes for the first pass, but it's also the pace notes where you know corners are going to become really rough. You know rocks are going to be pulled out, and you will put that into your notes. And Ogier and Loeb, both masters at that.
Because they've got so much experience. They've seen so many rocks be pulled out. So they can just, it's almost an extra sense, isn't it, to understand how the road will evolve. You know, they've driven a kilometre up to that big rock. They know it's on the line. Okay, it is going to get pulled out. But your pace notes, you know, if you're coming to this stage, to Montelerno for the first time, you would just drive over the jump and think middle of the road is probably the right line. I'm not sure, because actually you do want to be landing over to the right for the left-hander that follows. That left-hander is probably a 3rd or a 4th gear corner that you want to carry the speed through.
Absolutely.
So if you're landing on the left, it's all about your takeoff point. And there's so many, you know, in Finland we see, don't we? It's all about placing the car and understanding where the car's going to be. Pace notes are crucial here.
Critical, and we know that Ogier will make good pace notes. We talked about those tyres, David. It is going to be really interesting because we have seen tyre wear becoming an issue. That tends to happen, yes, when we get to the second pass, it gets more abrasive, but it's a combination. It's the abrasiveness and the heat that causes excessive tyre wear. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're not going to see the extreme temperatures that we saw last year, and maybe they'll just about get away with the tyres.
And, you know, on this, we're more on the east side of the island. Obviously, they alternate this event between Olbia and Alghero. We're on the east side. There's generally more, the stages are that bit sandier over here, so not quite as abrasive, not quite as rocky. I think it's difficult. They've got the 4 tyres, pretty much everybody's taken, I would imagine, soft tyres. They have 24 hards and 8 softs. That's the allocation. Do with them what you want. And then they've added in 4 softs from shakedown. And that, even in shakedown, you know, you're taking quite a strategic approach. You're not wanting to push too hard, not leaning, taking too much out of the tyre, because you need it. You could need those.
Absolutely.
It is. It's going to be really interesting.
It really is going to be fascinating. So that's Toyota and the tyres. My money is on a Toyota driver to win. That might seem a little bit foolish when you look at the recent history of this event, because You know, you look back over the past 4 or 5 editions, and Hyundai have always been there or thereabouts. Sordo's won it twice, Neuville's won it. You know, Hyundai have gone really, really well here, David.
They have, but in recent years, you would potentially say Toyota's lost this rally rather than Hyundai's won it, because we saw last year Toyota struggled on these rougher events, didn't they?
And that famous year with poor Tanak. Remember, the Toyotas were
with
dropping like flies,
or
but
the alternator, whatever.
Tanak persevered. 4Ks from the end, persevered into the wall with a power steering problem.
Yeah. So the Hyundai, it's been a more robust car. It's had the pace here. Yeah, they've built a good car, and absolutely for sure, Thierry Neuville needs a win. Absolutely, he's the main player really. Okay, Elvin as well. Elvin's won already this year. Thierry needs a win.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Thierry said before the event, it does sound as if he went off on a little bit of a tangent, on his own tangent in Portugal with setup, and he got it wrong quite clearly. He struggled, whereas Lappi was quick and up to the point. You know, Elvin was just dealing with being first on the road, but Lappi was quick. What he said is he's gone back to a setup that is more in keeping with what his teammates have gone with. So he's kind of said, maybe it's not the time to be trying things out, you know.
But I think, you know, here he has, he's got a lot of experience in Portugal. Here he knows. He knows what the car needs, he knows what he wants from the car, and he will have it dialed. And it's just about, in many ways, the really interesting thing, and it's the next chapter of this story, is what happens with Lappi. If Lappi's flying, if Lappi's up front, again, we're going to have that story of juggling. But in all fairness, Cyril Abiteboul, team principal, has been super clear on this. No, there is no question. You stand aside, you let Thierry through, you think of the long term.
And that's what happens on the Sunday. Listen, we've seen Lappi leading this event, don't forget, a couple of years ago. Was it last year or a couple of years ago? I think it was a couple of years ago. Couple of years ago. Last year. He was leading the event at the end of day one, driving beautifully, and then put it off on the opening stage on
his
Saturday.
Program, wasn't it?
Oh dear, oh dear. So, you know, they have drivers, 3 drivers, Hyundai, who are very capable of winning. They have a car that we know is very capable of winning. They need a good result. We forget this. They're yet to win this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Great start to the year compared to last year, but yet to win.
Danny's the boy.
Yes.
What would it be?
Oh my goodness
three
me.
from 4, 3 from
Oh
5,
my
whatever.
goodness me. If Danny Sordo were to win this event,
You'll jump in the harbour.
I will. I'll tell you now. If Sordo wins this event, I am down to my boxer shorts and I'm in that harbour or that harbour, wherever or I might go for a wee splash in a puddle. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. But yeah, if Sordo were to win, it would be such an enormously popular win.
It would, and it's possible. You know, these events they are super tough. And in fairness to Danny, he won by driving consistently, didn't he? You know, when was it the first year when who was it? Was it EP?
All the Toyotas went.
Yeah, exactly. And that left him. But he was there. He was quick, and he was always there. And that's exactly what you need from this event.
Absolutely. It's an event that's always very attritious, and we've seen that over the years. Good word, isn't it, attritious? A few years ago, remember, Loeb went off on this stage, very close to the start. Solberg went off, showing my age, that must have been 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But we'd lost half our cars by lunchtime on Friday. It can be, particularly the opening day here, it can be very, very attritious indeed.
It can also have quite a high rate of attrition.
Well, that's rate of attrition. That's 3 words where only one is necessary. It's normally me that gets accused of being a little bit verbose.
Welcome to Dirtfish, where we'll teach you how to do this and this. And all you have to do is click this link. We'll see you soon.
Let's talk about M Sport. Oyt Tanak, slowly getting there. Still, his presence lurking behind the leaders in the championship.
slowly. He's second in the championship. He's closer to
slowly, I mean in terms of getting there. Getting there, not in terms of his pace, but in terms of...
But he's there. You know, fine. But I do wonder, Oyt is giving us all of this, blah, blah, you know, all of this stuff about the car. Absolutely, there will be an element of that. But also, there's an element that he's leaning on the team again. We've said it all before. I'm sure the car is getting there. We know he couldn't do what he's doing without a quick car under him.
He couldn't have won Rally Sweden without a quick car, and he won Rally Sweden.
And it's about fine-tuning, and it's about those last details, those last percentages that allow those drivers to go at 100%. And this is a kind of worrying thing for the rest of the field, that Tanak's doing what he's doing at probably 92, 93% of the package's capability.
possible, yeah.
And every, like you say, incrementally it's going up.
Yeah.
And the trouble is now we've got Kenya next, which is a similar-ish kind of event to this. But then we go into the quick stuff, where you'd think he would have the ability to win both of those rallies.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, it's more instinctive for him, and we know the car. Like you say, he wouldn't have won Sweden without a car that's quick in the quick. So yeah, get through here, get through Kenya with good points. We're into Oit territory then.
We're really into Oit territory. He could absolutely become turbocharged as we get into those faster rallies. Tanak is absolutely in with a shout here. His road position is absolutely not bad. His rally nous is 100%, David. He knows how to deal with these difficult rallies. He knows how to work his way through the challenges, particularly the challenge of the first stage, the challenge of this long stage.
That's what we're seeing, Colin. You know, it is experience, and down the years you've seen great drivers, the likes of Carlos Sainz, of Richard Burns, the Kankanens of the world, that can drive around the issue. That's when they've not got a perfect car in their hands, they can drive around it. You know, it took people like Didier Auriol, these drivers that need the absolute feel, the perfect car. You know, he won one championship with what was the perfect car. Sorry, Didier, I'm sure you would have won a lot more. But Oit Tanak is this kind of guy that can drive around the issues. He can deal with what he's got, and he can get it to the finish.
And he measures the risk. He absolutely measures the risk.
Yeah.
You know, Tanak himself has been 100% faultless this year. He measures the risk. He knows what he's got to do. It is his job to score points to bring the car home, and he's done that on every single event.
Yep.
I think he's doing a quite remarkable job there, and he's still very, very much in the hunt. So
Lube on the podium?
Wow. Lube to finish in the top 5. I'll take that. Top 5.
Yeah.
If you can finish in the top 5, there's every chance you can get yourself on the podium.
You know, if he can pull it all together, we've seen silly mistakes. If he can get rid of those silly mistakes, he's shown pace to be in the top 3.
Tiny mistakes, but what's happening? Lube's upping his pace,
Yeah,
and then
the
penalty you pay for the tiniest mistakes increases with the increase in the pace. Lube, absolutely, David. He could well have a good run here. So, folks, we're very, very much looking forward to what's a little bit of a cooler, a little bit of a different 20th running, 20th year, 20th celebration.
19th or 20th.
Yeah, we're not quite sure.
Let's celebrate
forward
anyway.
to it. Don't forget, folks, you know, it is a long weekend. This one starts Thursday, goes right through until Sunday afternoon. If you do miss anything...
Same as more. Start Thursday,
Not all of them start Thursday evening. It's a very long weekend. If you miss anything, Dirtfish Live Centre. Have a little look, drop-down menu, Dirtfish Live Centre. You will be kept up to date with everything.
Stay with us all weekend. Weekend.
The whole weekend. We can't wait to have you with us, folks. We'll see you over the course of the weekend. We are very much looking forward to Rally Italia Sardinia.